Good evening. Welcome to the Policy Committee meeting, July 25th. Lynn, has the meeting been properly posted?
Yes, we have.
Okay, first item, or next item on the agenda would be opportunity for citizens to speak with us, if there are any that have chosen to. Apparently not yet. Okay, thank you. Action items. We do have minutes from our June meeting to approve. Moved by Barbara.
I'll
For
second.
approval of the meetings from June.
I'll second.
Seconded by Greg. Any questions, changes to the minutes? Seeing none, we'll just take a aye or no vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. The next 6 action items are policies that have been brought to us and vetted by our staff. They are actually, again, some clusters involved here. Policy 2271, Youth Options Program, Policy 5113.01, Course Options, Policy 5421, Grading. All have had the same words entered into them, which deal with when we will have, well, maybe or when not, we will have weighted courses. If you look at your first 2271 Youth Options Program, we've added youth and course option courses will be given weight for the course in instances where the student has previously taken the advanced placement course in that subject area and scored a 3 or higher on the AP exam. And that same sentence will appear in the other two policies I mentioned. Any questions or just, yes, Barbara? Microphone.
Where in the policy is there any words or comments about that?
Well, the policies itself, under youth options and course options, those govern the students who are going to
Okay.
WCTC or
Okay.
to Carroll for a course.
Okay,
Where we needed to make sure that these policies were in line was in those situations where there is the AP offer.
right,
If the district offers the AP course and the student takes that AP course, so think of AP Calculus, they pass the AP Calc exams with a 3 or higher, but they want to continue on in math. The question comes in is, should that college course be weighted or not? And so by saying that if the student has a 3 or higher on the AP test, so they've maxed out what we offer in Waukesha, and then they take the next course in that sequence at the
Right,
college,
right.
we would honor what they've done, their course sequence, and give them weight.
right.
So that's the reason
Okay,
why
so-
we want to make
okay.
sure this language is similar.
Do these colleges and universities, do they charge us, the full price for taking a college course?
There's a state rate for the
There is a
course
state
fees,
rate,
yes.
okay, thank you very much.
I want to add something. I believe that this also went through the T&L department, didn't it?
The TNL department looked at this, as well as a couple of our principals.
Yeah, we
So it's been thoroughly vetted by our system.
Yeah, what I like about this is we tie it back to AP courses, right? So
Correct.
it's just like if I want to take basket weaving 101 at a college, and I'm not saying I'm exaggerating right now, that wouldn't necessarily be weighted. But you're looking at a high-level math course, and they've already taken all the AP courses in math that they could, and they're moving on to some very advanced course in math, taking that from, Carroll College or WCTC or wherever, that makes sense to be weighted to me. So I like how we thought through that. It's not just any college course. It has to be related to the various rungs, if you wish, of AP courses that we've already adopted here, and that student has basically exhausted.
Gone beyond, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. If you're okay with it, we could take those three as a chunk, if you want to think of it that way, unless you have further questions. Because we will then be bringing these to the board for first reading in the August meeting. Okay, anybody want to move on approving the revisions to 2271, 5113.01, and 5421?
So moved.
By Joel. Is there a second?
Yes.
Seconded by Barbara. Any further questions? All in favor of accepting those three policies, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. 5-0. Lynn?
Do you want that to go as one item when it goes to the full board? Do you want me to put all three policies?
Well,
You'll be taking three separate votes at the full board then, if I have them listed separately. So I just
no,
want
don't list them
clarification.
separately.
Combined?
I'm okay with it being
We've
combined.
been combining them
Yeah.
up to this point, so we'll just take a chunk. The only reason I separated those is because,
I did.
all right.
Thank you.
Again, we have two clustered here, 3210 and 4210, staff ethics for professional staff and staff ethics for support staff. And, wait, I gotta get to the right one.
These would also be in your white sheets that were by your packets.
Yeah, I've got them, yeah. What we've done here, and by the way, you have on your sheet, as Joe said, the revised sheets. There's an addition to the 3210. As it says in the executive summary, the policy currently did not have or does not have a list of specific expectations for staff regarding ethical behavior. So that led to the addition of a sentence that reads, "The district has the following expectations for staff: honesty, respect, responsibility, compassion, self-discipline, perseverance, giving, and common sense." And in 3210, Joe, would you explain, as you were talking to me earlier, why we added this particular one, this J?
Yeah, oftentimes there are documents that are in the process of development, and the people who have the context around those documents and around the work, if you will, are the people who are sitting on the work committees to draft them. And if those documents are disseminated or shared outside of what is that committee prematurely, they're going to be done so out of context. And then you can get into what is the purpose for sharing, why are we sharing? And so what we're asking is that the staff and the administration and whomever is involved in a working group refrain from sharing draft or working documents with other staff or community members until such documents have been properly vetted by staff, committees, administration, board committees, and/or the Board of Education. We have established processes to make things go into either policy or procedure in our district, established processes for what is going to be a handbook development or a guideline development, and we want to make sure that those are adhered to.
Now, relative to that addition of J to the professional staff, you did not have it added to the support staff, is that?
It is also on the support staff. There is also an updated 4210.
I'm sorry, we have two pages here, thank you, sorry about that. So again, both of these two policies will be reading the same. Any questions on those two changes?
Just wondering who came up with the list?
Some of the list was developed in the work session so items A through I came up from our work session as a team developing the policy. The statement, and Chris Hedstrom is in the audience here, the statement on the district has the following expectations. Those have come up from questions that have been involved sometimes with if there's employee discipline. For instance, people will ask, do you have a statement in your policy that says, do people have to be honest? So these statements up there capture that. There was a board member who brought item J to Dr. Gray's attention. And as we discussed that administratively, we're making the recommendation that it get added as well, because it does pertain to some of the day in and day out operations in our district.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, and I actually think that these are the right expectations. Sometimes we just take things for granted, right? But we're a big organization, and we have to spell things out, and this really does help that. And most people try to do these things, but we really want that to be part of policy now, and that formalizes it a bit. So, not a bit, a lot.
Any questions on 3210 and 4210?
Yeah.
Barbara?
Back to that I, refrain from using. Could you just explain perhaps what this person was thinking, why we needed to have that, or what, how it would look if an employee displayed this kind of behavior?
Well, if I were to speak to I think your item J, which is the added one on the
Right,
white
excuse
page,
me.
I can think to a number of situations where there is a building schedule that is being discussed, and the process of discussing the building schedule and implementing the building schedule goes from what is a work group to, for instance, a board member, and then instead of us being able to go through a process of developing a schedule, or substitute parent for board member or parent group for board member, we're not able to sit down and truly vet what the ideas are. And then the process gets knocked off course, and you're not able to use the minds around the table, the committee that is working on something to develop a good product. You're then get into this position where you're reacting to questions that have been asked or are being considered, but haven't been vetted by the work group that's putting the project together. And so that is an area that is dealt with, I don't want to say frequently, but it is dealt with annually by teams in our district.
But that's not to say that employees aren't consulted about changes in the district, changes in their school building, et cetera.
Oftentimes, these work groups are staff and administrative collaboratives that have a lot of voices going in. And we want to make sure that those teams are the teams that are developing whatever product we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And then through the vetting process, when you get to a point for public opinion on whatever the topic is, for instance, taking a school-based discussion to a PTO to discuss what is, a possible change and getting input. Sometimes you go from a one committee conversation to then a firestorm of conversations. And we just want to make sure that the work that we're doing in our system goes through a proper vetting cycle so that we can present to our community the best information, present to our Board of Education, our board committees the best work that we can do, and make sure that is thorough before it's going
Well,
public.
I just want to make sure that, teachers are included in discussions because they're going to be part of the solution and they need to own it. So I think it's very important for teachers, parents, and even the community to have some input.
And Mr. Dietz was part of our sale work in June, where we had about 250 people working out west on our school improvement process. That is probably the most thorough school improvement process that I have seen in all of the districts that I've worked in, and it's the most collaborative.
Wow.
So that
Great.
does take place.
Great, thank you. That's important.
Okay, This is an action item, so do we have a motion for approving 3210 and 4210 as revised?
So moved.
By Barbara, seconded by Amanda. Thank you. Any further questions before we vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, Lynn. And then we have one new policy. Oops, let me just get this out of the way. On conducting research in our schools. And the history of this deals with a bit of the change from the guidelines format to the policy format. So I'm going to let Joe describe how that happened.
Yeah, as we went through the policy drafting, we had an area we have an area in the new policy that talks about research in schools, but it's not specific to the type of research and how that research. This policy, indicates that the board values educational research in schools, but all research studies carried out within the district using the school district or building, they must be approved in advance by the superintendent. And so we just want to make sure that that's explicit in policy, and that's what this policy does.
This is really not a change in behavior or protocol. It's something that is moving from a guideline into a policy.
Correct.
With this.
Not an issue, but more of a curiosity, just more of a question. How often, how many times during the year does Todd approve, a
think,
survey or some research going on?
Between Todd or a designee, we get about a dozen requests, and it's usually from our staff members who are students working on a master's degree. So action research, we do occasionally get an outside group that would want to come in and study middle school age students, and there's a process for doing that. And do we as a system benefit from that? Do our students benefit from it? So a lot of those considerations need to be made, but we just want to make it clear that Todd or his designee approves that in advance.
Do we have word designee in here, or?
Superintendent implies designee in the Neola book.
Part of the definition.
Oh, yeah. Okay, in the very
Remember that?
first, yeah, oh, yes.
I've asked that question a number of times.
Thank you
Yeah.
for reminding me.
Okay,
Okay.
then I will seek a motion for approving the new policy 9510, research in our schools.
I'll move to approve the new policy 9510, research in our schools.
Thank you, Greg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Barbara. Any further questions? All in favor of new policy 9510, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, Lynn. Okay, that takes care of that group of items. Next on your list, we had, at our June meeting, we presented, forgot to count them, a range of 15 revisions for policies that all came to us through the Neola revision program. And they were all first read at the June board meeting. I did not receive any response from any board members on those. I don't know if anybody else did.
Right at the July meeting? July meeting, not June meeting.
I'm sorry, was the July meeting. Yeah, I'm sorry. They were read at the July meeting. We went through them at the June meeting.
Yeah.
Committee, the full board July meeting, yes, sorry. So, Lynn or Joe, did you guys get any questions from anybody? So, again, these were either compliance issues or minor wording changes and things like that.
Not a big deal.
So if we have no further requirement for discussion or opening these up again, they will stand as is, and we will read them and seek approval in the August meeting.
The board meeting.
Yes. Okay. So, wait a minute. Keep these in order. Under our discussion item section, I did ask that we added a discussion, as a potential discussion item, to revisit. I've lost track of where to put stuff. 3112, staff communications with board. I know you sent it to us, Lynn,
Very bottom
of
last.
one of these, right?
Not stapled to the large packet.
Oh, it was separate. Then it's this one. No, and it's this one. Then it's that one. So, I wanted to just bring this up because it was presented by one of our staff members, citizen, in that section of the board meeting 2 weeks ago. And just to, I just wanted to see if we need to revisit this. It's confusing to some people, I understand that. We've had our discussions with this one before, so I wanted to see if anybody wanted to have some discussion on this one.
I do.
Okay, Barbara?
I believe very strongly in communication and between principal and teacher, teacher and central office, teacher and school board. And I guess this does not provide for communications with school board. It's got to go through the superintendent, and I guess I'm not comfortable with that. It's like seeking permission, like a teacher seeking permission to share something. You know, a lot of times we work on committees, and who does our work affect but the teachers? Sometimes they ask questions. Sometimes they, let you know that it's really not in the best interest, in their best interest or that of our students. So I guess, I don't know. It's a chain of command, is it not?
The policy that this committee debated and brought to the board kept that topic specific to performance evaluation of their job duties or responsibility to the
does
board
say
or
that.
its committees. They shall be submitted through the superintendent. This procedure is not intended to deny any staff member the right to appeal to the board important matters through established procedures. Failure to do so may result in employee discipline. I would say that this is a standard policy. Our language is a bit softer and a bit more specific to performance evaluation than what are other districts. And Lynn Cummings and I reviewed policies from other districts that are so extremely tight on what can go from an employee to a board member, that ours does provide some flexibility for staff. I would say that and I have experienced this as an administrator, and I have had a number of conversations with staff members after the fact, after the communication has gone around, where what is being relayed is only part of the story. It is only part of the fact. It is only part of the experience. And if we are truly looking to engage in problem solving and system improvement, we want to make sure that there is a process for engaging our conversations, if you will. And that's what is asked. And that's reflected more strongly in what other districts have adopted. And it is pretty clear in what is our policy here.
Has this been discussed with staff at all? Has this particular policy have any staff input?
This policy had the input of the group that developed the policy, and it had the input of the committee, the policy committee of the board, and it has had the input of the board as a whole through the policy approval process.
Okay.
Greg, you had some comments I think you wanted to make.
I know I too, Joe, looked at several other districts that use Neola, and we are the only ones that I saw that related it to their performance evaluation. And when I see that, that's educator effectiveness. That's the evaluation tool that's being used in the district related to their job duties and responsibilities. Everything I've read from other districts doesn't include the word evaluation there. So I think we've narrowed it to evaluation. even though it's inconsistent with what the last paragraph says, because the last paragraph doesn't include performance evaluation, it still says performance only. It doesn't, we haven't inserted the word evaluation there.
No, I'm sorry, Greg. Performance of job duties is second last line.
But not evaluation.
Oh, the word evaluation is
It's not
missing.
included there. It is included above.
True.
Well,
So that's vague to me.
yes, I've just
And
read
then,
it.
I'm not sure what, in that first paragraph, what established procedures are. Where would someone find out what the established procedures are, or what are those established procedures? If a staff person has the right to appeal, by what means can they do that? That's unclear to me as well.
It's in the district grievance procedures.
Chris has got her hand up. Chris, you want to grab one of the microphones there, please?
It was my goal to not say anything tonight, but since you asked that, we do have in the employee handbook, the professional staff handbook, the appeal procedures for a formal performance evaluation. The other point I would like to make is when we talk about personnel issues that have to do with employee performance, oftentimes the Board of Education is the last stop in an appeal process. And as all of you know, when we meet in closed session to discuss an employee's evaluation, I'm very careful not to divulge too many details so as not to influence the board one way or the other in the event we do need to go to the board for a decision in an appeal process. So therefore, that type of chain of communication having to do with employee performance is, I think, recognizes a strong board and a strong board superintendent relationship that is there for the order. It keeps the order of the organization.
Thank you.
So that would be, would it be correct to say that that would be established grievance procedures?
Grievances are for discipline purposes,
Okay.
terminations, or safety.
Okay.
So it would not involve resignation or non-renewal or someone who doesn't like their evaluation. We have the evaluation appeal process in place, and we've been administering it as needed and as requested over the last couple years since we've had the educator effectiveness program in place.
Barbara?
In all the years I've been on the board, and been on the board a long time, I have never had a call from a teacher to complain about their performance. I mean, they know that we have nothing to do with that. And naturally, if you got a call and somebody complained, I would not think it was my place to talk to the superintendent or talk to the principal, et cetera, about that. But on the other hand, I have had conversations with employees about, other changes, but not their performance. And we aren't discouraging that, are we?
Not in here.
There's no intent to discourage any kind of two-way communication
Okay,
between staff and board members. As board members, all of you already know that you
Yes.
need to be good listeners and that you refer people back to the people that can make the changes.
Of course.
And I think all of you have been doing so
yes.
in an effective way.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Chris. I appreciate that.
Other questions or,
Oh, one more question.
huh?
One more question,
Sure,
please.
please.
When we hire new employees, of course, we give them this book. And it's probably a lot to, digest in one sitting, et cetera. How do we make new employees familiar with all of these things?
The handbook is a part of our onboarding process. We have an electronic onboarding process right now, so the employee can review all of the documents at their leisure. It's not like we're sitting them at a desk and having them review a bunch of
Right.
stuff and having them sign off right there.
Okay.
So they sign off document by document, including the handbook.
Thank you.
Policies, of course, they have online that they can see
Right,
anytime.
right. Well, I don't know how many of them look at policy, but,
There are a number of policies that the principals direct their staff to at the beginning of the year, and the staff acknowledge that they have read those.
right.
Amanda?
Yes, a question, and forgive me if this was asked already. So when we revise these, how are the staff members updated that, I know that they go online, but are they prompted to say, this has been looked at by the committee, please
When
review?
What our process was when we adopted the new book was through the Connect and through an email to staff and administration, they were directed that the book had been adopted. These annual updates to policy, it is an employee's responsibility to look at which policies have been updated. That has always been how, as a district, we have operated when new policy has come up. It's gone through committee, it's been in the board minutes. If it's a policy that pertains to a specific area that has an immediate consequence, those people would be alerted to the policy being updated. For instance, if in October the student discipline policy were to be updated, it would not be assumed that the principals would know that there was an update. But it is the employee's responsibility to stay current. In addition to that, the reason why the book is electronic, the handbook, is so that when policies are updated, those links can be updated, and then the policy book, or the handbook, stays as current as it possibly can be.
So we put it on the staff to,
To look at the policies and to
Policies.
stay current, yes.
once we updated them.
Have any efforts been made to inform staff that there's, of this booklet? I'm sure that each one has one, right? Every,
Talking about policies, or are we talking about the
That's the
employee
handbook.
handbook? Employee handbook,
The employee handbook are online, they're not valid if printed. The board just approved the professional staff handbook at July's board meeting, and the new handbook is online. I'll just say that, for one, when there's a policy violation, depending on how egregious a violation it is, we generally use a multi-step process in discipline. So the first step would be redirecting the employee, which is not considered formal discipline, but to have a corrective conversation, point out the policy, and make sure that they're aware of what the expectations are going into the future. So
that's good.
we try to handle it from that perspective, because we also realize that we can't expect everybody to read every single policy and memorize it. So that's how we handle that. The other thing is part of my plan for communicating, because we've had so many policy changes, my plan for this coming school year is to choose specific policies and put that in the Connect saying, did you know?
Oh,
So if there's a
Very good.
specific change, and to highlight specific policies that are, that could have an impact on how people do their jobs.
that's very good. Good idea.
we are also having a policy review, I believe it's on August 10th, with all of our administration, and there is going to be a summary update provided to all staff, and that's going to be made public to our parents just prior to the beginning of the school year. So those are additional steps that are coming in August.
Summary update, could you describe that just a little bit?
Just letting parents and our staff know that the policy book has been updated, that there's series that pertain to certain employee groups, for instance, support staff, professional staff, the student, the program, that all of those are going to be spelled out so that people can go there. In that, Chris is doing an excellent job with the employee handbook, has done an excellent job with the employee handbook, making sure that that's updated. We are going to make sure that there are certain policies that are highlighted to staff so that they do know what is coming. We've also been working with our schools on student and athletic handbooks to make sure that those are up to speed. So the current pertinent information will be there for them.
unique question or unique situation. Sometimes new teachers are hired maybe a month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks after school officially begins. How do we orient them to all the things the other teachers had as far as organizational things? How do we do that, if we do it at all?
Well, I would say that, through HR, I think that the onboarding expectation is the same. From a curricular standpoint, it happens over the course of the year.
It does.
I mean, there is nothing that's gonna capture the summer institute that we provide, nor the other summer learning experiences that we're gonna provide. So a lot of that happens over the course of the school year.
But the onboarding is available to them.
The HR onboarding is the HR onboarding.
Every employee
Connected to
goes
it.
through that process, yes. And then new for this year, for our teachers, our five dates have been set aside for 2-hour meetings for the new teachers to get together, optional.
Great.
To go over specific topics, give teachers a chance to talk with one another, ask questions, listen to each other's questions, and continue to become acclimated. This is something that was developed by the Teaching and Learning Department as a result of the feedback we received on the new staff surveys. So when we do that celebration in January, one of the things that, some of the things that we heard on the survey was, we wish there were some times we could get together more than just at the beginning of the year.
I'm
So we put that in place for this year.
I just
That'd be
want,
like within the first semester or
Throughout the year.
throughout the year, you're gonna have
that's
these
great,
2-hour.
that's good.
Yep, the dates are already set.
I just don't want anyone to experience what I did. I was hired like third day of school. I never saw anybody from central office the whole year.
Don't think you can plan on that happening.
No, I know that, but it's something I will never forget because you've got to help teachers understand, expectations if we want them to, be successful. Thank you, Chris, I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Greg?
Bill, just as a follow-up to Amanda's question, if we did do some minor revisions of this policy, it would have to be approved by the board.
Yes.
So that would be another way for staff to be informed, because I know Chris does a good job of summarizing what happens at board meetings through Connect and other means of communication, publications. through
I
the
just
news,
list the
whatever.
policies and their titles, thinking that if this is important to
That'll-
someone, that they would,
Right.
go online to take a look at that.
Right.
Sorry, Joe?
I thought there used to be a statute, and maybe the statute still exists, that there are certain policies that have to be posted in a poster format and then posted at every school. Is that statute still exist? And
So those are public notices, notice on non-discrimination, notice on that, and yes, those are still in place. And I think it's right out on the bulletin board outside of the boardroom here where it's posted at Lindholm.
okay, and if we impacted those by any changes we've made here, we'd have to republish those?
Those have to be updated.
Anything else on 3112?
So Bill, just to.
Yes, Greg?
Just with the last paragraph, it doesn't include the word evaluation.
Oh,
When I look at that, the last 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of that last paragraph might be able to be condensed to individual board members have no authority except when they are convened at a legal meeting of the board or vested with special authority by board action, because the rest has already been repeated somewhere else. Look at the last 1, 2, 3, 4 lines.
yeah.
Everything other than individual board members have no special authority except when they are convened at a legal meeting of the board or vested with special authority by the board. Has already been, the rest of those 4 lines has already been stated somewhere else.
Doesn't complete the sentence, though, until you get to the discussions between staff and board members related to performance evaluation, et cetera. I think you still have to leave that on there to make it a complete thought.
Right, either that or to include the word evaluation after performance.
Well, Joel?
So I think my question would go back to you as a board is if you're in a situation where people are coming to you with issues with their job performance or their duties, and that were to turn into a disciplinary situation, would you be comfortable in a closed session and then weighing in on what is potential discipline for that person? When I did the research on the other school districts who have adopted this policy, they've used similar language or a lot more stern language where they talk about how this conversation would be deemed unethical, where it does get into more stern discipline. There are some districts that spelled out a formal protocol about if you do want to speak with a board member, it goes through the superintendent and the board president, and you'll be notified within 7 days of the acceptance of the meeting, and then the meeting will be had, and then the board president will provide a summary to the superintendent and the employee with their response within 14 days afterwards. So there are some pretty specific languages around there, and I think that those districts have adopted that language as a measure of protecting the chain of command, protecting the role of the board in performance issues, and that's why that this is worded the way that it is. We do have a number of events every year, from sporting events to our musical events to actual, social events such as the retirement dinner, celebration of excellence, where there are opportunities for this to happen. And when we discussed this, I believe, when this policy was up for discussion earlier this past school year, we did talk about the need to make sure that we clarified this under social interactions due to the number of times that people could have that contact. So to remove that, I think would potentially create some exposure for board members, and it would definitely muddy any process that we would have through discipline and such with a staff member.
But when I read the two, when I read the first paragraph and I read the last paragraph, I'm seeing two different things.
Because of the missing of the word evaluation?
Yeah, yes.
I would agree with Greg on that. I've just read it over and over here. If I just read the last two lines, so discussion between the staff and the board members related to job performance, related to the performance of job duties or responsibilities are inappropriate. That, by just reading that line, I read it, I'm talking about your day-to-day, what's going on in your class. Whereas the first paragraph is specific to the performance evaluation. So I too see that there's a difference in the two paragraphs
Okay.
without that word evaluation in the third
We could have
paragraph.
the option, we can't take action on this tonight, but we would have the option, put this as an action item, if you wish, we can put this as an action item to add that one word, evaluation in.
Where, Bill? And number 3?
Just after performance
Right after
evaluation
performance, 'cause it would read exactly the same as the one on top.
as the first paragraph.
Okay.
So we can agendize this as a potential action item for August committee meeting. Am I correct?
Action and discussion item at that committee.
Yeah. We've had the discussion tonight that causes us at least to have enough concern about making this a little bit more specific.
Yes.
So my suggestion is, and I will agendize this for, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but it must be about August something,
15th.
15th? About right, the third Tuesday. Okay, Lynn? And we can change the word, or yes,
Now, why can't we do it tonight?
it's not agendized as an action item.
Agenda is only for discussion.
But when we have policy meetings, we make all kinds of changes, but it's only on action items? Is that what you're saying?
Must be an action.
Correct. Must have been doing it wrong.
So?
No, I don't mean,
You don't want
No.
to get fined.
you know, usually we would have, and we've already really talked about what word we want to change, but we can't officially change it until we agendize it as an action item.
Yeah.
That's within our realm to do that. Okay. Here, if I looked on the next page, it would say August 15th, wouldn't it?
There it is.
Thanks, Lynn. Other business, any other recommendations for future meetings that you want to add to the plans. We will, I'm sure, have some more coming at us for the
Bill,
next.
that would affect policy 4112 then too, because that would be support staff,
Okay, thank you.
if there's a change.
Yes. Then we're gonna, okay. Thanks, Greg. No other recommendations for future meetings? Any other business? Okay, we will then be meeting August 15th for the Policy Committee, and we stand adjourned this evening. Thank you.